Anxiety overwhelm when home alone, well, that's no fun for anybody. And a dog who actually hurts itself and tries to frantically escape the house and damages the house in the process, well, that dog is miserable. And coming home to find these disasters, well, you're not happy either. Well, there's a great new solution for this problem, and it may be just exactly what you and your dog need. Let's find out. And if you notice any of the symptoms that we're going to be talking about, go ahead and give me a note, and I'll address that stuff for you. So, in case we have not met, I'm Dr. Jeff Nickel. I'm a veterinarian. This is our family dog, Miss America, and we have Gaston and Tony, our cats. And this isn't about cats, they're just here enjoying the experience. And so if you tune in, please let me know you're here. Give me your name and tell me where you're from. And if you can hear me loud and clear, hit the wow button. And if this is valuable information for you, give me some hearts. That'll help me understand that I'm doing something helpful for you. So if you and your dog are struggling with separation anxiety, you both need all the help you can get. And I want you to know that the Calmer Canine, which is a device that sits on this little vest, and Miss America's wearing hers, and sits right back there, and it looks a lot like a halo, doesn't it? Well, you know, the truth is that dogs with separation anxiety are usually the sweetest personalities anybody's ever met. And in fact, this is a really gut-wrenching problem for many dog parents because they love this dog who may be damaging their house, maybe house soiling while they're gone. And the halo shape of this thing is something that I like a lot because these dogs are little angels in all other ways. And I think that we can get your dog to behave a lot better with the Calmer Canine. Very, very frequently effective management and treatment tool. So, you know, it's a great new resource. And there's sound research supporting its function. It's easy to use, just twice a day. And the dog will feel no sensation at all. And so if you have a dog who's freaking out when you're gone, do your best to avoid the frustration, which is, well, so easy to feel because there's damage and your dog might have hurt itself. And you have to understand that these dogs are beyond panicked. And if you lose your patience, they actually get more frightened. And it can damage the bond that you have with your dog. So the best thing to do is take a step back and, you know, the old saying, count to 10, and recognize that your dog actually needs your empathy. And we've got a solution to help out with this thing. And it's more than just the Calmer Canine, by the way. I'll be talking about some of that. But, you know, when we start to see benefits of this thing, pet obviously feels much better. And its person feels better. And the kind of kindness that you share with a dog solving this thing is something that ends up being spread to other people and other pets that you encounter. And so this is a really valuable thing. So let's walk through the questions on the quiz. And by the way, go to Calmer Canine, that's C-A-L-M-E-R, the letter K, the number 9.com, and you can get the quiz. It's free. It only takes a few minutes. And it's a wonderful screening tool to help give you some information and get you started. And there's more to it at the end. There's a lot of value when you finish it. So when you go to get started on the quiz, they have a little button, start the quiz, and it'll ask you for your name and for your email address. And you want to put those in there because at the end of the quiz, again, it's only a few minutes, you will get the report immediately, and they'll send it to your inbox of your email, so that you can refer to it later. You can share it with your veterinarian, with a certified dog behavior consultant, with a trainer. And these folks can swap information with you and help understand more about the problem in your individual dog. So you want to get going on the quiz. And I've printed out the questions, and because I want to just walk through one after the other with you a little bit here. You know, in addition, many dogs with separation anxiety have other anxiety-related behaviors. And, oh, Richard, wonderful. Your pup is real drama queen when I have to leave the house. Well, I'll tell you what, dogs who kind of lose their minds as their person is leaving, that's actually not a normal behavior for dogs. When the leader leaves the canine social group, and our dogs are behaviorally programmed this way, it's not supposed to be any kind of event at all. And so it's best to ignore dogs when they leave, because if they lived with a feral group of dogs, the way they're hardwired to do actually, they belong as our pets, but they are genetically hardwired to live with other dogs, and the leader doesn't say anything when he or she walks away, and that's normal for this species. And they are not little people with furry suits. They're members of another species, and some of the rules are very different. So a dog who does that may be giving you a clue that there could be a separation problem. So Richard, I'd suggest you go on to Calmer Canine and take the quiz. So many dogs with separation anxiety actually have other specific anxiety-related behaviors. For example, storm phobia is a common, what we call comorbid behavioral condition. In other words, it's a separate problem, but many dogs who are genetically predisposed to anxiety, and most dogs with anxiety actually are genetically set up for that problem. And separation anxiety in particular has been studied as a genetic problem. And so many dogs who have separation anxiety also have storm phobia or thunder, fireworks, loud noises. Sometimes they have other noise phobias too. Household noises can do it. But some of them are going to have anxiety about riding in the car and anxiety about strangers. And, when I give behavior consultations, which is what I do, that's my practice, I find that many dogs who come in with separation anxiety also have other kinds of anxieties that also need help. We don't treat these problems in a vacuum. We want to get our arms around everything that's going on with a dog who has a behavior disorder and help them out on every front. And when we don't miss anything and we treat everything, we often find that the separation anxiety, the primary problem, actually gets better along with everything else. Let me go through just a couple of the questions, the particular behaviors that you'll get asked about in the Calmer Canine quiz. And what's important to remember when you answer these questions is these things refer to what's going on just before you leave home and while you're gone. How do you know what's going on while you're gone? Well, we'll talk about that a bit, so stay tuned. But if it happens while you're getting ready to go, and if it happens while you're gone, or either one, you want to click yes on these questions. So here are some of the common behaviors that we see with dogs who have separation anxiety. One of them is vocalizing, and that can take the form of crying and whining, and a lot of them howl, and they sound just horrible. And you may hear it as you walk away from your house. You may hear it as you return home. And I often ask people to check with their neighbors, because if they're bothered by your dog's racket, they may be too nice to say anything. Well, you need to know. And in fact, you don't want your neighbors unhappy with you, that's for sure. And you also, if your dog's noise and vocalization while you're gone reduces, not only is everybody else happier, but we know that your dog is improving. So find out if your dog is vocalizing, crying, whining, yowling, howling, all of that, barking. They'll do any and all of the above. Some dogs make escape attempts, and they are trying to follow their person. And so many dogs who damage the home while their person is gone, these are dogs who are tearing at the doorknob, ripping at the door frame. Dogs have been known to do enormous damage to an exit door in the space of a 6 or 8 hour workday. Tear out the sheetrock. It can be, frankly, huge. Not only toward the exit door, but many dogs will do it toward a window because they know that that's the way they get the heck out of here and maybe follow their person. And we also find that many of them are pacing back and forth, back and forth. And they get home after their overly exuberant greeting when you walk in the door. Many of these dogs are just exhausted. Well, that's not healthy for anybody either. So that pacing, and many of them are going to be panting nervously at the same time. But here's one that's a real big one, is what we call watchful waiting. And these are dogs who, while their person is gone, they're at the window. And oftentimes we find that the curtain if the dog has to push the curtain away with its nose, I have noticed that the curtain gets kind of dirty from all the spit on the dog's muzzle as it's pushing away the curtain. But, you know, again, your neighbors, your mail delivery person, others might say, you know, your dog's looking out the window all the darn time or frequently. And that's a very clear sign. I'm a big one on watching for that. Some of them house soil. And you think, oh my goodness, well, should we punish that? Well, no, the truth is there's never anything about punishment that teaches a dog what to do instead of the wrong behavior. And it is more complicated to teach them what you want instead, and that's a whole different subject. But house soiling, to me, one of the big clues is that there are dogs who house soil when their person is gone because they're freaked out, and there are others who house soil at other times. And they might sneak off when the person is eating dinner or watching TV or sleeping, and they'll house soil when their person is at home. And that dog is not house soiling because it has separation behaviors. So if it only happens when you're gone, it's not proof that you have separation anxiety with that dog, but it's a very common indicator. Interestingly, cats with separation anxiety are commonly urine soiling. Not the purpose of this Facebook Live, but a useful aside because we have a couple of cats right here. So, you know, others, you know, they can lick themselves and damage their skin, often over their wrist, but other parts of the body as well. And then, of course, many of them shadow their person. They follow incessantly while you're at home. That over-bonding that is seen with that shadowing behavior when people don't even look like they're going anywhere, that can exist as a separate behavior disorder, but very commonly, gentlemen, sorry about that, bad behavior with cats. Now here, Tony, you go around this way, and Gaston, why don't you jump off the table? Or look that way, attaboy. This guy picks on his brother sometimes. Yeah, I need a behavior specialist, don't I? Actually, as long as it doesn't cause any fighting and they're just swearing at each other, we don't worry too much about it. All right, so the following part of the quiz, after you get a chance to click off on the behavioral symptoms that your dog has, you get a chance to rate the severity, severe, moderate, or mild. And this is really helpful in part because the way the quiz is set up with how you can read through the description of, say, vocalizing, severe, moderate, mild. If you're going to look at escape attempts or pacing or watchful waiting, you can choose an option of severe, moderate, and mild for each of those things, and they give you a very clear description, 2 sentences, about each of them so that you know exactly which thing to pick. But it, you know, will trigger in your mind, holy smoke, I've got a big problem with this symptom, not so much with this other one. And these details are so valuable in making an accurate diagnosis. And I'll tell you, just being clear and correct when we say this pet has separation anxiety and this one actually has something else, accurate diagnosis means a lot if we're going to treat effectively. But when we treat separation anxiety cases, we don't treat them all the same because they're all very different. And if we can understand every detail about every individual, we can custom fit our behavior modifications and management changes to that particular dog and get a better result. I point to this dog. Actually, Miss America does not have separation anxiety. In all my years of being a dog person and a dog parent, I've owned 2 of them who have. Neither is with me anymore. But besides learning a great deal about this during my behavior specialty residency and studying the research that's come out since then and having experience with treating hundreds of them for pet parents and having 2 of my own, I can tell you there's a lot of variance in these things, and we want to be as specific as we can. And the quiz can be real valuable with that, especially the questions that address the severity of it. So, you know, I think when you look at the quiz results, which again you're going to get right away after you take the quiz, it's going to give you a symptom overview. That's kind of the big view, and there's certainly value in that. And it'll help you to know how likely it is that your dog has separation anxiety. And that's really what this quiz is going to do. It's a screening tool. It'll help you understand, well, my dog probably doesn't have separation anxiety. It's got these other behaviors anyway, and we better get help with them, but it may not be separation anxiety. or it may tell you that there's a moderate chance or a very strong likelihood. And that's quite helpful because you take this report again to your a certified dog behavior consultant, a veterinary behaviorist like myself, or a dog trainer, and they can work with these specifics with you. So it can be so valuable to do that. The other thing that you'll get right after you finish the quiz is it's going to give you other possible causes of some of these behavioral symptoms, because not a single one of them is going to be, okay, that means that your dog has separation anxiety and nothing else. Each of these things has other possible explanations, and one more time, accuracy matters. And so it'll give you additional possible causes that you can read through and understand, like, maybe there's something else we need help with, or no, this is pretty clearly one more piece of evidence that we have a separation anxiety problem with our dog. And so the other thing that you want to remember is that it doesn't tell you for sure you're going to have separation anxiety with this dog. It doesn't tell you for sure what the severity is, in part because, again, these are the variables of individuals. We see cases sometimes that you look at this full list of symptoms, you go through the whole quiz, and the dog might have just one or two of those symptoms, but they're really severe, and the dog does have a serious problem with separation anxiety. But another dog, for example, might have several of the symptoms, and but they're each pretty mild. The dog has separation anxiety, but a pretty low-level case, certainly needs treatment. But we're going to custom fit what we do for that pet and its person based on, well, it's a mild case versus a severe case. So all of that stuff's valuable, and it's all going to get emailed to you, and you can print it out, and you can, again, share it with a behavior specialist. And so a lot of this stuff, how the heck are you going to know what's going on while you're gone? Well, a lot of people now have in-home surveillance cameras, but you can buy pet video surveillance systems that are meant for pets. And on the CZ Animal Health website, the particular one for the Calmer Canine, and again, it's pretty easy to remember, it's CALMER, and then the letter K, and the number 9, that's a big girl. You go there, and there's a section for pet video cameras, and it'll give you the fine points of how to set these things up, how to get good results. For example, most dogs with separation anxiety are freaking out the most and possibly doing the most damage to the house during the first 15 to 30 minutes after the person leaves. It'll give you all those details, and it's a great resource in itself. So that you'll find also on the Calmer Canine website following the quiz. And the other thing I'm going to suggest that you do is that you consider at this time of year, if a dog close to you or someone you know, their dog has pretty clearly a problem with separation anxiety, you can give the Calmer Canine as a gift. And through the holiday season, there's a special introductory offer on these things, so you can save some money and give it as a gift. And I got to tell you, kindness is a real gift. You encounter a dog who's fearful and bites because it's afraid, or if you encounter a person who bites because they're having a real struggle in their life, and they may not seem like they deserve kindness, but if you dial into your own personal empathy, you'll find that kindness really matters. And so I have Miss America here, and so she's wearing this little vest that comes with the Calmer Canine, and it has this little Velcro patch right behind the head. So when you just stick the Calmer Canine device on there, you can see she's wearing it, and I push the button, and it goes on for 15 minutes. It turns itself off. Again, they feel nothing, but it is aimed at the part of the brain that's involved in fear, the amygdala, and it adjusts what's going on in the neurons. And again, it's drug-free, and it's entirely safe. And so it's one of those things that is, it's the gift of kindness. And you're giving yourself a gift too, because when your dog gets better, you're not going to have your house wrecked anymore. And you're going to feel a lot better, and so will your dog. I'll tell you what, empathy really matters. And dogs understand when their person has hope. They also read our body signals almost continually. And they know that if their person is really frustrated and maybe angry, it actually worsens their anxiety, and these problems advance when people are impatient, which is totally understandable. You know, you got a dog who's doing hundreds of dollars worth of damage to your house every darn day. You might be tempted to put the dog in a strong crate to prevent that. They make crates that are like a vault that no dog could escape. But the problem with those things is that these dogs get even more frantic when they're that badly confined. So that's not an answer. What we've got to do is custom fit our behavior modifications, and you're going to learn a lot about that on the Calmer Canine website after you take the quiz. And then if you want to order a Calmer Canine, it's a targeted pulse electromagnetic field device. You can get it right there, and you can get the holiday discount pricing on it through Christmas. And I'll tell you what, you'll feel better. And I hope that if you have any questions, you'll put them on the CC Facebook page. But one more time, the special website for the Calmer Canine and to take the quiz is CALMER, the letter K, the number 9.com. So thanks for your interest in this thing. I think the gift of peace and kindness is a wonderful thing. I love veterinary medicine because it's a great chance to improve lives. So thank you for tuning in, and have a great holiday season.